Oh, Barbara, are you saying yes?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, thank you. Well, let's jump back to our district grants for a moment. And like Alan and Elihu have already pointed out, we're in October and we still have 6 grants to close from the previous Rotary year. So that's not a good position to be in. I'll tell you, hopefully this year we won't be so far behind, but we'll see. Perhaps this little presentation will be helpful. I try to keep it simple as possible. And for those of you who need to know what the District Stewardship Committee does, is we make sure that the district grants meet the documentation requirements of Rotary International so that our grants are all documented sufficiently as required. Which sounds easy, but it's not so easy in practice, apparently. My bullet points for today's discussion are: the clubs should have people who are prepared to work online 100% in DAC-DB. I think this year, I think we're pretty good at that now. I mean, it's been a few years where we've been transitioning over, and I don't think the problem is actually just, computer work. But I would say that in any particular club, your club treasurer is probably the person you want to be best friends with as far as your grants go, because the treasurer is documenting the activity in your club. And having been a club treasurer in the past, I know that all the information is available to the club treasurer that would be necessary to document a grant properly. So be prepared to work online in DAC-DB. Bullet number 2, we have had some issues of do the grant that you applied for and were approved for, and that includes doing it within the Rotary year. So if it's a 1920, which we're still working on, you need to do the grant in the year that you applied for it. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be exactly dollar for dollar what the application was, but it does need to be documented on the end, and you do need to meet your matching. Otherwise, if you don't meet your matching, you would have to pay the funds that were unmatched back to the district. So documentation is critical so that you know where you're at. I think bullet point number 3, be prepared in advance to document your grant. So that knowing what you need up front helps you on the end, on when you're finished with the fun part of the project, actually doing the project. The part that nobody seems to like, the documenting of it. If you know what you have to do up front, you're doing it anyways when you're paying for your specific items within a grant. Somebody's getting a receipt, someone's writing a check, the club might write the check direct. I see most of the time, individual Rotarians are acquiring things for the project. The treasurer is reimbursing the individual. Well, the treasurer right there has to get a receipt to reimburse. It's that type of thing. You just need to be prepared to save all of that. And in the individual clubs, having a person who is in charge of the documentation of the grant is helpful, rather than having a lot of people accumulating things at the end. So the specifics, It's not really that tricky when it comes down to documenting your district grant, but there are some things that are absolute requirements. You should save a copy of the grant check from the district when it first comes in. This is part of the preparation. You have a copy of that check, and you're going to need the bank statement that that check was deposited. If you deposit something in May, bank statement needs to be part of the grant file. Same thing with all your receipts. The receipts are accumulated during the process of the project, and you'll need the receipt. You'll need how it was paid for. So a check that matches a receipt from your club account or a reimbursement to a club member, those things need to be part of the file. And all of that must be included when you're submitting your final documentation and uploading it into DACDB. My helpful suggestion for all of us is to not wait until the end of the Rotary year to document your district grant. Do it when you finish your grant. And we can get half of them knocked out in the middle of the year, as opposed to this year where we did all of them, nearly all of them at the end. So there is a very detailed file in the DACDB files, how to document a district grant. I've sent that to everyone who is approved for a district grant more than once last year. I will do it again this year. So it's step-by-step detailed. If you follow that document, we're all on track. I want to thank everyone in advance for more attention to this year. And I'd also like to send out a special thanks to my mentor, Carol Alexander, who recruited me for this job. Thank you, Carol, and thank you, everyone.
I want to make a couple of quick comments. I really want to thank Neal. It is the most frustrating job in the foundation area. I am not going to call out the clubs that have not closed out their grants. If you're out there, you know who you are. It is frustrating, and we've talked about this at the F&P committee meeting. You know, there's some districts that just don't give you the money until you close the grant out. So when we get the money from Rotary, we hold it. You do your grant, you close it, you do it, we give you your money. The problem with that is there are some clubs out there that are small clubs, and they do everything right. And they can't afford to lay the money out. They don't have the money in their treasury to do it. So you don't want to, at the same time, you want to try to nip this problem in the butt. You don't want to hurt the clubs that do everything right, that don't have the money. They're small. And so it's a difficult balance. But Neal's right. You know, there's some clubs, this year is a little different because of COVID, but I was frustrated because there's clubs that do school backpack projects, okay? Where they get the backpacks in September, okay? Why do they wait until like June to turn everything in and close it out? The project was finished in September, okay? So if clubs would at least, when they do it, get the receipts, submit everything, we could close those out and not leave so many to the end of the year. And it's just a constant frustration, but I give Neal credit because he's a trooper and he's been going through it. So